Hello again. We are back with three wonderful poets this time, reading to us, Dan Coleman, Andrei Dosa, and Robert Gabriel Elekesh. I will introduce them one by one and also invite them to tell us where they are actually reading from. Dan Coleman is a fiction writer and poet. He made his literary debut with a collection of poetry, The Year of the Yellow Mole, in 2003, followed by Ginga, Mara Dictionary, and the Coman Insectarium. In 2010, he was awarded the Radio Romania Cultural Prize for Poetry, and in 2011, the Vilenica Crystal Prize in Slovenia. He also published 4 novels, Irresistible, The Parish, Marriage, and These Things That Will Never Change, which was published by Polyrom last year. Thank you very much, Dan, for being with us. Where are you now? Dan?
Bistrica, I'm in Bistrica, where the internet connection is not. It happens sometimes. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you well now. So you're in Bistrica.
Yeah, I'm in Bistrica now. Yeah.
What are you going to read to us today?
I'm going to read the first 2 poems from Mara Dictionary, translated by Ioana Ieronim and Martin Woodside. And I'll read another poem from Coman Insectarium. But first, I'll read 2 poems from Mara Dictionary. Okay. New mornings. Several times a week, there are new mornings. Mornings that seem as good as any other if they don't quite reach a meter's height. Some educational cubes for children under 1. Coffee no longer fits in. Tobacco no longer leaves the mouth. And our love sits close between us like a cow shedding its hair. Mara walks here. Walks all sort of small bodies for whom the air is just a toy to push quickly in the nose. These are new mornings. Powdered milk rolls all over the length of them. A Chico sun ticks endlessly over their weed. These are new mornings. A meter above them, our large bodies float already belly up. Next poem is called Biscuits with Applesauce. I stay with Mara at the window. A beautiful winter's day. It snows as we eat biscuits with applesauce, not saying a thing. Each with the whole winter morning before us. Sometimes we stop eating and press our noses to the glass. We stay that way without saying a thing. Breath warms my face slowly, and slowly, Mara's breath spreads warm throughout the park. And now I will read a poem from Insectarul Coman, translated by Monica Cure. And I will read in English and in Romanian. It's a short one. I think we have time enough, yeah?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. A tall bird. On the one hand, beauty remains. A photo of you at the sea, brightening night after night the face bent over the screen, shooing away from time to time the housefly, also a drum to the bright sun of the Romanian sea. Beauty remains. A summer photo, salmon the size of a grasshopper, walking away on the sand, enveloping the wrinkled forehead now like a potted plant. On the other hand, life. The mild spring sun warming the small northern city, morality, caring about others, teaching logic at the Price High School, sensitive souls, love and respect, and a tall bird, a kind of quiet flamingo, hovering slowly over the one, a deserted place. Și acum în română, o pasăre înaltă. Musețea. O fotografie cu tine la mare, noapte, fața unui bărbat obosit, aplecă pe ecran, îndepărtând în răstimpuri musculița de casă, atrasă și ea de soarele puternic al litoralului. Frumusețea rămâne. O fotografie de vară salvată în calculator. Nimic real. O femeie de mărimea unei lăcuste pe nisip și o lumină roșcată, ieșind doar pe jumătate din monitor, înconjurând fruntea aridată, făcând-o să pară un ghiveci înflorit. De altă parte, viața. Soare blând de primăvară, încălzind orășelul din nord. Cursurile de logică la cel mai tare liceu. Firi sentimentale, dragoste, respect și obișnuință. Și o pasăre înaltă, un fel de flamingo tăcut, planând îndelung deasupra celui ce se întoarce acasă, ca deasupra unui loc părăsit. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dan. While you were reading from the Mara dictionary, I was wondering if Mara is actually your daughter, and if it has any connection with her, the title of your book.
I cannot hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me? Dan, can you hear me? Maybe not. Okay.
Now, yes.
Now, yes.
Yeah.
I said I was wondering if it was your daughter that inspired the Mara dictionary, the volume.
It was my life when my daughter appeared, you know, in my life, yeah.
It reminded me of Nausgaard's Seasons Quartet,
Oh, it's a huge compliment for me. Thanks.
It was really wonderful. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, thank you.
So let's continue with Andrei Dosa. Both Andrei Dosa and Robert Gabriel Elekesh were in London, part of the Romanian Cultural Institute's program, and I was very happy to meet them both. Andrei Dosa has published 5 poetry collections, When Completeness Comes, from Tracu Sarte in 2011, American Experience in 2013, Nada, 2015, The Real Golden Boy from Max Blecher in 2017, and Luminous Expectation in 2020, this year. In 2018, he published his first novel, Yerbar, with Polyrom Publishing House. He is editor of the literary magazine Poesis International and also works as a translator of Hungarian literature into Romanian, mostly translating contemporary poets. You are so active, Andrei, doing so many wonderful things, and I look forward to hearing what you're going to read today.
Hello, I'm going to read from The Real Golden Boy.
Where are you now?
I'm at my home in Brasov.
In Brasov, okay.
Yes.
So
these poems were translated by Andrew Davidson and Anastasia Gavrilovich. Inspire, expire, exist. The acoustics in the dumps, the soldering doesn't hold. The sensors medicate the unnecessary as much as unnecessary, and the aesthetics on restart. I inspire, expire, exist. My brain made in Italy is golden and glinting. I can't talk about money. I can't shut up about it, and my thoughts circle back like the broken chorus of a roundelay. The bullhorns are infected by government admin ladies. Someone stole a length of fence. The irritable people on the street, the cloak and clash novels. I inspire, expire, persist. And so does my sturdy body made in Hungary. I have whose blood, the nurse says so, or I wish she'd said. I can help you in a physical way. I don't have deep thoughts, don't have lasers on my brain or gadgets. I noticed the gypsy's skin and clothes adorning a little lavender scent today, sweet corn tomorrow, true moral and penny bun. The government admin ladies shut up, bullhorns senselessly amplify the screeching. Why does the cricket's song stop for the sound of train wheels in the field? And if the gypsies adorn natural extracts, when will art in me like a chroma key overcoat to get me out? And if it doesn't get me out, my body is sturdy and takes me away. It helps me out of failure. Sausages. These old guys started to resemble Yoda, discussing the Force. 2 sausages on a little tray and a lot of mustard. They walked through the streets in their robes, collecting the remains of a world that flourishes in confusion and gut reactions. Industries exiled to the toolbox. They'd give you vacation on the beach or in the mountains, old fella. It was heaven. The wives direct begonias and geraniums in slow war on the balcony. And the last one, post-Decembrist greatness. The houses in that area are hard to define. A building could be a school, hall, palace, anything. There is no vegetation whatsoever to leave room from habitation to go through its relentless transformations. What doesn't concern me doesn't kill me. The music of my soul vibrates beautifully, in the air, in the lymph, and in the marrow. None of this belongs to me. It's only the apparent consistency of living matter. It's not a given that air passing through the organ's thin pipes also pass through the accordion's bellows. The air is so sweet, I might not let it out. That's as easy as it can be. There's suspicion about the water here and domestic sewage. Everything is suspect. There's suspicion about the walls and non-existent cracks. I live on the edge, no matter how narrow it can be. The summers were badass. The outlines of our bodies could have been traced in the grass. The hand, too lazy to stop the music in headphones. While the golden hour poured out its light and the city projected dioxide bubbles on the sky, I was swimming home in beer. And the indifference, the facts dragging around unfortunate events, causality, and all the unmarked, uncovered manholes. Don't wish for causality anything you wouldn't wish for yourself. Don't curse fate. Not even the artistic space is privileged. Its cathartic content condemned to repetition, because art is an endeavor less courageous than life. Maybe the good side of my soul is locked up in a charitable work no one needs. Its post-Decembrist greatness gets lost in television babble, radio interference, entertainment programming, false accusations among dedications. Thank you.
The artistic space is privileged, and our Zoom space is privileged to have you with us. Thank you so much, Andrei. I was wondering while you were reading, because you are translating Hungarian poetry into Romanian, I was wondering if you ever write poetry in Hungarian or you only write it in Romanian.
Well, at the beginning, when I started to write, when I was 20 years old, I started writing in Hungarian. But because in our town, in Brasov, there are no literary circles held in Hungarian language, I started to write in Romanian because I thought that way it would be easier for me to get connected with other people that write.
Do you ever feel that you could express yourself better in Hungarian?
At the beginning, I thought so, but now I think exactly the opposite because I'm not anymore in so much in contact with the Hungarian language. I mean, I translate it, and I speak with my parents, and some friends, but it's not the same thing like living there in Hungary, let's say, or in a town where, I don't know, a lot of people talk Hungarian.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Andrei. It was great to have you with us. And I will continue with Robert Gabriel Elekes, who I believe has just finished classes today. Robert is also an academic. Let me just briefly introduce him to you. He's an award-winning poet, performer, and translator. His first poetry volume, Here I Sink My Teeth into My Spine and I'm Off, was published in 2015, and 3 years later, he published his second volume, A Drone That Will Finally Want Just Me, with Max Blecher Publishing House. He was also awarded the Young Writer of the Year 2018 prize at the Young Writers Gala in Bucharest. His poems have been translated into Hungarian, German, English, and Dutch. He is the founder and coordinator of the Poetry Reading Club and the Poetry Festival, Dr. Nikus Schizoid Poets. Lovely to have you with us, Robert. Where are you now and what will you read to us?
Hello. Thank you for inviting me. I'm in Brasov, like Andrei, so we're city mates, and we went to the same high school actually. So in this sense, it makes a lot of sense that we read together here. I'm gonna read kind of a medley, like a poem that was patched together from different poems of mine, and I created this medley for a project, an online project during the lockdown. So it also kind of has this kind of contemporary vibe to it, that I talk about certain things that we went through in the last months, but it has newer passages and older passages from my writing, and fits right into these 7 minutes, so I chose this to read. And it's called Terminal Obsolescence. And the poem also has a motto from Nicole Laroux, a French historian. And the motto is like, in the tragic world, all moaning tends to consider itself music. And now comes the poem. In an infected world, all breathing tends to consider itself music. All abandonment, dance. I read the horoscope of orphans, practice the mixology of poverty, take the masterclass of inutility. The meteorology of bullies doesn't scare me, not anymore. Nobody wants your loneliness, nobody craves your fear, or gets enraged by silence, or envious of absence. Others' happiness doesn't keep me up at night, not anymore. Isolation is organized crime against stereotypes of life. You and your disinfectant, the smallest mafia there is. Out there, it's spring, and everywhere the dead are sprouting and blossoming. Bees are flying from dead to dead, sucking their nectar, dipping themselves in, scattering them through the world. From so much death in the air, working citizens are sneezing themselves on the asphalt of the city. And somewhere in a pasture, the dead are entering one side of a cow and escaping the other. In here, I am learning how to use others' eyes to see what I don't want to be. But somehow this doesn't change a thing. It's just a movie projected daily by a bum's mind in an abandoned cinema. What can I say? I like myself so much that I could not live in a world in which I would be dead. In an infected world, all breathing tends to consider itself music, all abandonment, dance, and all selfdom, alchemy. You still eye them all in their concrete Rubik's cubes. Through windows they are the same vagabond flesh, embalmed, and now they rock themselves from one to the other, in patience, in slumber, in an instant, fetishized, pushing lazily with their tongue this black point of time from one cavity to the other, and scraping through thought after thought into the crusty skin of the world. Like a flower, their waiting grows out of your chest. You try to hide it, but banality is a bitch that likes to take a smell at everything, take a piss where you are, at your most beautiful. If I get out of here, I will open my mouth wide, let the fluffy glow of pollen-filled air through which I judge everything that doesn't want to end illuminate the words stuck in my throat, and dream of an afterlife without verbs, moments of calm monomania, while I just sit there and gawk at people and how they rejoice innocently at the sight of the sun's technicolor death. And I just guess by their movements, the parts of their bodies that have remained untouched by others. If I get out of here, I will coat this world in glass, watch it rot under a telescope, but the damn birds won't shut up. Not anymore. They celebrate our terminal stirs, nestling ourselves into our obsolescence. In an infected world, all breathing tends to consider itself music, all abandonment dance, all selfdom, alchemy, and all that death, data. We are the first of the Mohicans that don't need other Mohicans to be happy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert. I could hear the music, which you actually started with. Who translated this?
Oh, there are several poets that translated the text. So it's, as I said, there's a medley between more texts. There's Taras Kurtu translated some of these poems. I translated some of them. Andrew, that also translated some of Dosha's, Andrei's poems, translated some of the parts. So it's kind of a mesh, and yeah.
But they all came together really, really nicely. So it was.
Well, yeah, it was a project during the lockdown where I kind of put these together with my perception at that time, and yeah.
Thank you so much again to you, to Andrei, and to Dan. And we'll continue now with another round from the UK this time. Back to you, Rosie.
Great. Gabriella, what do you think of my idea of proposing a publication of all the amazing pieces we're hearing this afternoon?
It would be wonderful.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah,
Yes.
Hearing all this, it's just extraordinary.
It
Our
would
pandemic project.
We need to convince a UK publisher to take us on, and that would be great.
Anyway, thank you so much to all of you. And then I'm just waiting to see whether my trio is going to appear.
I think you
Thank you.
already here.
Well, hello again from me, Rosie, and we're in the next half hour, the next 30 minutes, and we have 3 authors upcoming. One is still due to appear, but that'll be lovely at the end too, because I'll be reading from her story with her at the end too. So again, something to look forward to. But at the moment, we have these 2 absolutely phenomenally awake looking women, and Joanna Ioarenim, you're actually in the United States, but you've woken up early for us, I can see. Where are you exactly? What time is it with you?
Well, it is 7 hours earlier. It is already 10:30, you know.
Oh, in that case, you've had 2-3 cups of coffee already, so it's fine. That's how many I need to get going. Anyway, it's great to welcome you, and also Miruna Vlade, and you're in Bucharest, is that right? Yes,
Indeed, yes.
Great. Well, look, let's start with you, Miruna, and I love your flowers there as well too. Looks lovely. And let's just tell people a little. They're gorgeous.
I wanted to put a bit of autumn here.
They're really, really lovely. And let's tell everyone a little bit about you. And because, again, we were talking to Bogdan Sucheva previously, who's a professor of mathematics, and your other life is a political scientist. So, and I know that you do many, many things. So writing, political science, melding them all together. You've published 3 collections of poetry in Romanian, and you've also been to the Romanian Cultural Institute in London, and I know that Ioana Iorenim has as well. And so you all know what happens in London and how wonderful the Romanian Cultural Institute is as well. And I know that you've also been translated into several languages, and you're working on your first novel. So over to you first of all, and what are you going to read for us?
Hello once again, everybody. I'm honored and happy to have the possibility to share poetry in these complicated times, because poetry helps us hang on together. And I think this is a wonderful initiative. I will read from my 3rd collection of poetry, Bosnia Separation. Bosnia Pactaj was in Romanian. Now I'm preparing a new book of poetry, but I'm still superstitious, so not yet reading from it. So you will hear some selected poems about, let's say, an inside Bosnia. And
have you translated them yourself, or who's translated them?
Yes,
wow.
So please bear with me. I'm writing academically in English for like 10 years, but with poetry it's totally not the same. I feel very clumsy with poetic language in English, but I hope in the end it will be bearable.
It's very, very impressive translating your own work. Anyway, over to you, and I look forward to hearing your poetry. Thank you so much, Miruna Vlada. Thank you.
A breakup is a secession war between the former Yugoslavia and the former female within me. My separation is my moth-eaten country. Everything we won through our separatist battles. Bosnia is a property division, 6 letters, just like the 6 states of the former Yugoslavia. This is what I have to bear in mind. Everything we could be belongs to the former. Everything belongs to the former. Do you have your helmet on? For a separation, you need a helmet, elbow pads, and kneecaps. You can immediately craft a shield out of any item for intimate use. You start defending yourself because you're starting to attack. Don't come here without a helmet. We are a bunch of vampires. We suck everything we can out of our misfortunes. You award us and you caress our heads. We have been sucking and sucking for 20 years, for 200 years. We are just like an alfresco museum, a museum of misfortunes. You are the guides. You point our misfortunes on the map, and then we clap. But we still cannot caress each other's heads. And no one knows where it started and where it ended, this vampire movie. In a Europe with neatly cut nails, we represent that land that bites its nails to the flesh, that bites its borders to the flesh. Besides nationalism, all we have left are the cemeteries, where we lay one on top of the other. My country filled with glory, my country eaten by moths, my country born out of phobias, my country is left without toys. Victimization is like a clumsy surgeon that mutilates your healthiest organ. Masha. It's something porn about all this. It's like a business with tears and blood. Really, I hate to talk about it. I mean, what can I say? That everything is fucked up? But yes, you are right. This whole thing makes Angelina Jolie come to Bosnia and raise money for our tears. And she takes pictures with that black scarf on her head. Don't you think it looks great on her? We are the newest tattoo on her right shoulder. Oh, dear Lara Croft, the mother of my nation in pain, adopt me. Donate something for me, some big bags with cat food, and put all my cliches on the big screens. Show the whole world all the black signs on my nose. Be brave with my cowardice. Make a porn with my pain. Help me. these guys really don't get it. I mean, Bosnia was fashionable only in the 90s. Oh, wait, these guys are obsessed by the vintage stuff, by the age-old hatred between nations, the clash of civilizations for dummies. All those consumers of well-processed genocides, they are the only ones who taste our drama nowadays and take us under their wings. They come here as the new landlords of our tears, the owners of the land of honey and blood. It's pathetic, don't you think? They come here like in a sort of second-hand store with nationalist movements from the 19th century. They think it's cool, this Kino Bosna. We don't. Hatija. In 1996, I was working at a local radio station. I liked the fact that sometimes I was the only one there in the sound room, meddling with the buttons. I used to turn down the bass, then up again. You know that when you turn up the bass, your ears are ringing and the speaker shudders slowly, and you can feel the vibration in your chest. Well, it was more of a reflex for me, I think, to meddle with those buttons, to feel like I had control over the bass. Control without any remorse. At least war has taught me something. Thank you.
Miruna, you are an amazing performer. You really are quite extraordinary. I know that you've done lots of public performing, but that is so strong. I feel you're speaking directly to every single individual. It's quite moving, and yeah, there's a lot to take in. Very strong feelings in those poems. Thank you so much for participating, and congratulations on everything you've done. I know you, like everybody participating today, you have very, very full lives, and you're very, achieved so much. Thank you, and amazing translations, by the way.
Okay, so I should keep going. I should keep going.
Definitely keep going. Yes. Brilliant. Thank you so much, and I'm sure you're going to stay and listen to Ioana, who. So we're moving from Bucharest to Washington now, and Ioana also has a very distinguished career behind you. Ioana, it's true that you were the cultural attaché to Washington.
It is a long time ago in the 1990s. Yeah, it was quite an experience, and here I am again, you see.
Well, there's obviously something drawing you back.
Yes, it is family now.
Yes, wonderful. Well, it's a happy occasion then to bring you bring everybody together. Now, just a very brief description about what you do, if people watching haven't heard of you before, but I know that you've done so much. You've been editor and journalist and cultural attaches, you've been saying as well. And you have published 10 volumes of poetry, and some in English as well. And also there's the Adam Sorkin, who's one of the translators we hear about, again, very often from English. We've been hearing about all our great translators today. Lavinia and Her Daughters, a Carpathian Elegy. It sounds absolutely amazing. So, Ioana, which of the many things that you've written are you going to be reading for us today?
Well, I have picked up a few things because, we are so static under this COVID that I just wanted to go a little bit, what happens. You have a reaction. So I have pieces that come from various spots, just
from all over. Okay.
Yes. And
well,
the first, yeah.
I'm going to hand over to you, and thank you so much. I'm going to sit back and listen. Thank you.
Good. Well, The Touch of April 2020, a COVID poem that I dedicated to Fiona Sampson, an insider to this festival and to many important events. Sheep, chickens, and dogs for company in the poet's Wales that levitates at the core of all times. A tulip has risen at my gate. Violets blossom among stones in the backyard. Suddenly, close up, bigger than life, on this patch of ground in an American city, suspended, waiting. Our steps cannot take us far at this time, but our gaze can. When the crescent moon rises, touch your forehead and touch the forehead of who is close by with a gold ring for good luck and life renewed, as Romanians of old used to. When the crescent moon rises, your loved ones from afar will feel the touch of your golden ring on their forehead. And now a poem, American Vista. The geometry of power, a triad, 3 spirals waltzing, conjoined, holding each other at bay. A triangle, the most stable of forms, grounded underfoot. Beautiful geometry, meaning to restrain the possibility to err and abuse, wisdom and dream of the foundation, 3 branches and their tendrils that keep the right distance for justice and freedom not to be lost. Aho, oh ho, the triangle of power is under the siege of irrational numbers that swirl and slide and bounce against its sides. Fat jesters pluck its strings. The strings are out of tune. And now I come to Europe. This is a poem translated by Adam Sorkin. Question and Smile for the Catalan poet Jordi Perez Cerdà. Poet Cerdà, in what language did you watch over the sheep as a child? In what language did you count them after World War I, during those days of European innocence restored and not yet lost again? In what language do you know how to herd the flocks in the Pyrenees, the Alps, the Carpathians? Here in the dictionary brought to this mountain, do you think we can still find that language on its brittle pages that have been probably scanned in the meantime? Now, this is this book that Rosie mentioned, Lavinia and Her Daughters. This is a kind of novel in verse translated by Adam Sorkin. I will read just a little countryside vignette from Romania. The woman walks barefoot very quickly to the pigsty, hunched over. She can hardly carry the cauldron she has just taken from the grate over the fire. Little croaking Adrian, dripping snot, tangled himself in her skirts. The woman shrieks at him shrilly, pushes him aside with her knee, reaches the trough and pours out the cauldron. The pig squeals and lumbers up to it, trembling. The woman pats it softly on the neck and coos at it. Then more roughly to her son. Adrian, take care with Uncle Pandela's cow that it doesn't knock over the pig's fodder, God forbid. You, Gitza, my doll baby, beautiful boy. The pig has stepped with his forepaws into the trough and is busy eating, lost in the heart of paradise. Now I will read a poem that its title is Fiebre y Candor, from a Spanish poem. What's going to trigger love, inspiration, they ask. Does this happen like a spark? Does it get ignited through fear? Fear out of all things, oh God, indeed. And you, eternal child, singing in the dark, truly with fear of death. Darkness within touching darkness without. Who wants to have the stamp of darkness on their face? They are now selling makeup that stays on your skin for a whole day. So in the morning, remember, you had all tenderness in your fingers for him, and your heart soared high. In the evening, the makeup still there, and that tenderness all gone. Oh no, not true, just kidding. Smile to cover it up, smile while the flames consume you deep inside, innocent and fierce like the bite of the fox eating its way into the young Spartan soldier's body, and he is standing upright, spear frozen in hand. Thus, try to learn how to write a poem that you can email in an instant and still have it written like an ancient prayer carved in a rock. A little poem that I wrote in Creer, Scotland. Blackberry. That big blackberry there is the word I need in my line. I've tried to get it. Nettles and thorns hurt my hand. That ripe blackberry gleaming in the thicket. And now I will read a very little poem from a book that was published by Blood Axe. It is The Triumph of the Water Witch, translated by Adam Sorkin. I know how to speak as if I am not speaking. I know how to speak without moving my lips, my face motionless. I know how to speak so you can't detect who and when, as if the wind had uttered my words. Thank you.
Oh, Joanna, absolutely amazing. We've traveled the world with you in those poems, and I think that was obviously very deliberate of you, but to have gone from just writing down, I thought what we could do is make one poem from a line from each of your poems. And I was thinking we could travel from pigs snuffling to European innocence to triggering love, and then to pandemic makeup, really. It's quite something. You really do cover quite a range.
Could you curate that?
I think I'd like to give it a go. I'd love to give it a go. It was just, there was so many different lines I could have picked out there, but it was wonderful though, and I'm looking forward to discovering some immobile mask makeup. So,
in fact, this is a poem that was written out of my school experience, but as well as out of the experience of that bad regime that we came out of in '89.
yes.
And this poem always to remind me that it was like you spoke as if you didn't speak.
Yes. No, in fact, I mean, it's interesting, you know, because you obviously, Maruna, do come on. In fact, Doina, unfortunately, has not joined us yet. So
I had another poem and I didn't want to abuse the.
I think we've probably got to move on in a few minutes, but just to bring in Maruna again, I mean, how different the two of you are, but both so powerful. Now, Maruna, I don't know how old you were when the revolution happened, but I can see, you know, so many decades. You were 3. My goodness, that's quite something. So to hear Joanna's poetry, you know, crossing so many different decades and so on, it's really powerful, isn't it?
I must admit, I'm also a big fan of Mrs. Yeronim. I appreciate a lot her poetry. We had for a few times the chance to communicate and to discuss, and I think she's an amazing poet also because she's very unique in the Romanian poetic landscape. I mean, of course, we have a lot of wonderful female poets, that is true, but on the other hand, for me, that I'm also very interested in political poetry, I think she does this amazing combination between very strong political observation, but also very personal and very intimate writing, and I think that's for me part of her specificity.
And she does it so sweetly, doesn't she?
Yeah.
With a smile on her face. Politics with a smile on her face. Very clever.
Let me also say that I admire Miruna greatly because this was something my father was saying. She literally has the power, and not everyone has it, to speak like she puts her hand on the flame. She literally speaks from inside the flame. And this is a gift that is not easy to reach, and she's really wonderful. And I truly have the greatest admiration for her.
Well,
if I can share just a short confession, practically in this book, in Bosnia Separation, most of the poems have titles, female names. So practically each poem is a sort of voice in a dictionary of female names. And each time I read each poet with a totally different tone. And it's something very weird in a way, because it's something I cannot control. It's like I transform into that voice for each poem. And I think the process, in a way, it's far beyond music and construction. I think it's this attempt to try to get into the heart of a story and of a voice that it was unspoken. And for you as a poet to have this huge chance and responsibility, and sometimes even damnation, to tell the story, I think it's the beauty of literature in general.
Well, I'm so glad we've had this little bit of extra time to talk together, because you've really brought out some wonderful things in each other's poetry as well too. So Miruna, Vlada, thank you very, very much. It was such a pleasure to hear you and to see you and to enjoy your presence. Thank you so much, and an honor, Ioana Iorim, to meet you for the first time, and it feels real to me. So even though we're virtual in this way too, and to hear your amazing poetry. And thank you both very, very much indeed. And thank you for participating.
The silver lining of Zoom. It brings us together.
It's so true. It's so true. I have nothing against it at all. I think it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Rosie, you've done a wonderful job sticking us all together with
well, it's been a joint effort, but thank you very, very much indeed. And see you one day in reality.
Let's hope so.
Take care. Thank you very much indeed. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Hello again, back from Romania this time, from Cluj, leading you to our next 4 special guests for today. Mikhail Vakulovsky, Marin Malaiku Hondrar, Mugur Grosu and Gelu Vlașin, all absolutely brilliant authors. I look forward to introducing them to you, and I will start with Mikhail Vakulovsky, who is going to read to us in Romanian. I'm going to read the English translation. And even though he was born in the Republic of Moldova, he has just told me that he's going to read from Brașov, from Romania, from Transylvania. So welcome, Mikhail. Thank you very much for being with us. Mikhail Vakulovsky was born in the Republic of Moldova. He has authored 8 poetry collections, including Immortal in the Corn, a notebook with kites that I never launched, not even when I was small, 2, and actually 2, the volume 2 was co-authored with his brother, who is also a brilliant author, Alexandru Vakulovsky, who we collaborated with in London at the Romanian Cultural Institute. And another volume of poetry is Autobiography, published in 2009. Mikhail has also published a play, a novel, 2 essays in literary criticism, 2 interview books, and a history book entitled The Holocaust of the Jews of Romania, Testimonies of Survivors, published by Polirom in 2004. Mihail, bine ai venit!
Seara, mulțumesc de invitație, mă bucur foarte mult să fiu exact lângă Marin și Mugur.
Mulțumim și noi foarte mult și așteptăm cu mare nerăbdare să auzim ce ne vei citi.
Vă citesc 2 poezii din cea mai recentă cartea mea de poezie.
So Mihail is going to share 2 poems from his most recent volume of poetry.
Coloana tăcerii. Știi jocul acela în care oamenii se învârt în jurul scaunelor și la semnal se așează pe scaunul cel mai apropiat, dar unul dintre ei pur și simplu nu mai are loc? Olteanul Brâncuș și-a lăsat sufletul în România, și-a luat instrumentele și s-a cărat la Paris să ciupească nemurirea, devenind unul dintre cei mai mari artiști ai planetei. Brancusi, sculptor francez de origine română. Toți ceilalți s-au înghesuit într-un singur muzeu. Doar el s-a întins de unul singur într-un atelier aparte, iar numele său, Brâncuș, sare în ochi din orice sală a Muzeului Pompidou. Creierul lui Brâncuș, admirat din sala Dali, sala Picasso, sala Dada, sala impresionistă, sala surrealistă, iar aici, la Târgu Jiu, duhul lui Brâncuș stă zgribulit sub un scaun de lângă masa tăcerii, înjură de mamă poarta sărutului și repetă la infinit: Permettez-moi, s'il vous plaît, d'aller à ma place. Mai bine tu. Văd tineri cu Che Guevara pe pept, tatuați cu Che Guevara, lideri politici cu Che Guevara pe tricouri, oligarhi cu Che Guevara pe portofel, cântăreți Che Guevara, poeți Che Guevara, ce de Che Guevara. Veneam la lucru și un bătrân aurolac dormea dus sub o bancă din parcul de alături, iar Che Guevara de pe tricoul lui îi veghea somnul, îi liniștea visele, îi pregătea gânduri limpezi, amintiri frumoase, pline de viață, speranțe mincinoase, tineri, tineri, tineri cu Che Guevara. În cap, Che Guevara care omora copii. Decât Che, mai bine Lenin. Decât Hitler, mai bine Lenin. Decât Stalin, mai bine Lenin. Decât Lenin, mai bine Jim Morrison. Decât Jim, mai bine Jerry. Decât Jerry, mai bine Henry Miller. Decât Henry, mai bine uită-te în jur, la părinții tăi, la prietenii tăi, la colegii tăi, la țara în care trăiești, la orașul în care ești, uită-te în jurul tău și gândește-te la tine. Gândește-te un pic mai mult la tine. Gândește-te la tine.
The column of silence. Do you know that game in which people run around chairs and at a signal sit down on the closest one, but then one of them is simply left without a chair. Brâncuș, the Oltean, left his soul in Romania, took his tools and dragged himself to Paris to pinch immortality, becoming one of the biggest artists on the planet. Brâncuș, French sculptor of Romanian origin. All the others were cramped into a single museum. Only he has spread himself into a separate workshop, and his name, Brâncuș, jumps at you from every room of the Pompidou Museum. The brain of Brâncuș is admired from the Dalí room, the Picasso room, the Impressionist room, the Dada room, the Surrealist room. And here in Târgu Jiu, the ghost of Brâncuș sits shivering under a chair at the table of silence. Curses the mother at the gate of the kiss and repeats ad infinitum, permettez-moi, s'il vous plaît, d'aller à ma place. Better you. I can see young people with Che Guevara on their chests, tattooed with Che Guevara, political leaders with Che Guevara on their t-shirts, oligarchs with Che Guevara on the wallet, singers Che Guevara, poets Che Guevara, so much Che Guevara. I was going to work and an old Orolac was profoundly sleeping under a bench in the park next door. And Che Guevara on his t-shirt was watching his sleep, calming his dreams, also preparing clear thoughts for him, beautiful, vivid memories, false hopes, young people with Che Guevara in their mind, Che Guevara who killed children. Instead of Che, better Lenin. Instead of Hitler, better Lenin. Instead of Stalin, better Lenin. Instead of Lenin, better Jim Morrison. Instead of Jim, better Jerry. Instead of Jerry, better Henry Miller. Instead of Henry, you'd better look around to your parents, your friends, your colleagues, to the country you live in, to the city you are in. Look around you and think of yourself. Think a little bit more of yourself. Think of yourself. Thank you very much, Mikhail. Mulțumim foarte mult.
Eu mulțumesc.
It was wonderful. A fost minunată.
Mai ales varianta englezească.
We will continue now with Mugur Grosu. It's lovely to see you, Mugur, and thank you very much for being with us.
Hey.
Where are you now, Mugur?
I'm in the middle of Bucharest in University Square in my small apartment.
In Bucharest.
It's night, but I'd like to show you maybe the view over the window. It's
really nice. It's already dark there as well.
Intercontinental Hotel and University Square. I don't know if it's visible.
Lovely. I'm going to briefly introduce you for everyone who is watching us. Mugur is a writer and an artist. He learned how to swim and play the piano before writing and reading. At the age of 5, he had his first piano lessons and jazz auditions. He published 6 books of poetry and experimental literature, including SMS, They Breathe and Make Love Like Butterflies, published in 2006, Dumbbell with Bells in 2001, Grosso Modo in 2011. He features in 22 anthologies, 4 of which are international. And what is particular about Mugur Grosu, I believe, is that in his projects, he likes to bring together poetry, art, and music through art installations and performances. What are you going to read to us tonight?
I'm far away from my last poetry book, and I chose the 2 poems from the next one. I wish I will publish it next year. after, I don't know, 9 years of silence in poetry, publishing books, I don't know, conventional way of speaking.
Look
Just
forward.
because of all these performances, I neglected this area of books, and so those are pretty new. And the name of the book is Principala Morengo, which was, I don't know, song without meaningless song in the childhood. Everybody in Romania know. I hope they're still no. It was like Antantiri Mogodan Karakarasi Principala Morengo Tango. Because this book will be about, in a way, I don't know, lost in a sort of the innocence I lost, I don't know. So it's about childhood and love and, of course, poetry.
We look forward to hearing you.
But from this childish perspective, in a way, in the whole. Everything I've been through in this house all these years, everything that grew and fell into ruin, it gathered or spoiled imperceptibly, and now that I'm moving soon, the owner started the repairs. For the one who will start over here, yesterday, for example, he repaired the intercom, and today I heard for the first time the sound of it. Thrilled by fresh starts, I answered. Hello, this is the police, I heard. They probably ring randomly, I thought, as postmen or leaflet distributors, or like homeless people during harsh winters, when even dogs find shelter. The police, what a good trick. I lingered in the hall listening for a while, just the silence. When I heard them coming up, they stopped right at my door. Two frowning men, kind of disgusted with formalities, they asked me if I live here. When they showed up the police badges, in those seconds it crossed my mind all the curious reasons which could have required the authorities' intervention. When one of them asked me if foreigners live in this flat, I heard some voices in a Semitic language coming from the inner courtyard. Which courtyard? The one all the kitchens lead to. And the other guy brought to light a sheet of paper with a mugshot of two men showing a front view, one younger, one older, with glasses. And they both seemed fishy like we all do when police take pictures of us. Did you see them around? I bent down and while analyzing their faces, the same hallway flashed before my eyes and the door frame you leaned on before leaving few hours ago. You were very late, but I stole another kiss from you, and you embraced me, and we lowered our hands, we stripped off frantically, and we made love standing up, stumbled across clothes and clock hands. I don't remember, I replied. In front of my eyes, all I could recall were your palms, so beautiful, on the same black and white mosaic in the hall where they were staring now. And the second one, the plot. He was much smaller than me, but he had two advantages. His blue eyes, and that he was living in the capital. And this made him think he was some kind of a prince of ours. Local people spilled out by maps during holidays in my grandparents' house. We both secretly loved my little cousin. We played hide and seek with her. We were hiding in some closet, holding our breath, sticking together until we fainted. Or in the attic, or in the cellar's darkness, where I knew that the little one was afraid to go down, because boogeyman could get him. When jealousy struck him, he began to brag out loud that he will marry her. But she's your cousin, an adult vocalized like he was at the opera. You're smaller than her, I said, softening my haircut. But I can give her an ID card from Bucharest when I grow up. But you don't have a sea in the capital, I jumped to defend Constanza. But we have a river. You don't have a river. You don't have a port. You don't have a subway. You don't have ships. You don't have trams. Yes, we will. You don't. Yes, we do. You don't. Yes, we do, we do, we do. For I had seen a huge model in an expo with Constanza's development in the so-called Golden Age. And what I noticed and enjoyed were the trends that did all the great feats, the growth of the city in 5 years to look like it came with electric trains. And 5 years before the revolution, they even appeared in the city. The adults quickly called them ampicillin because they were long, white and red, and they were taken every 6 hours. I radiated, for every passage seemed to me a gust of wind stealing a wedding veil. A decade after the revolution, a zealous guy from the capital became the mayor of Constanza. 15 years after the revolution, he decreed that the trams are anachronistic, stand in the way of capitalist man machines. He tore up the rails, he poured asphalt and concrete everywhere. If he had been mayor for a long time, he would have paved even the sea, make it all concrete parking space near the city mall. The mayor fled to Madagascar, but Boogeyman got him. The prince was head over heels in love with another girl he married. Me with another one, and another one, and another one, like sailors. And our secret love never find out all this plot.
Thank you so much, Mugur. This was wonderful, and I look forward to the next volume of poetry, which I hope you'll go back to very soon, and to a proper performance when we are released from Zoom.
Yes, I wish to. It was so tempting for me to play something on the piano, but it had to keep it simple. Hello, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mugur. I'm going to continue now and introduce you to a wonderful author, Malaiku Hondrar, who is now in Timișoara. That's where he's going to read from. He's going to read in Romanian, and I will read the English version for you. A few words about Malaiku Hondrar. He's a novelist, poet, and translator. The Flight of Woman Over Man, his first volume of poetry, won the Cluj Writers' Union Debut Prize. His poetry has been published in various anthologies. His first novel, The Book of All Intentions, has become a cult novel among poets in Romania, where Mircea Cărtărescu, a great author, well-known author in Romania, who we mentioned last night, has compared it to Jacques Kerouac's On the Road. Malaiku Hondrar lived in Spain for 5 years and has a strong affinity for Spanish and Latin American literature, also translating some of the authors belonging to these literatures into Romanian. It's a great joy to have you with us. Marin, what are you going to read from? Din ce ne veți citi?
Bună seara, Gabriela, și bună seara prietenilor mei prezenți aici și tuturor celor care ne urmăresc.
Hello to all of my friends.
Câteva fraze dintr-o povestire despre un lunetist.
I'm going to read a few phrases from a story about a lunatist. Okay.
Am zis că trebuie să plec. Tu mereu trebuie să pleci, mereu spui asta. Avea dreptate și uneori chiar trebuia, alteori nu. Atunci mai degrabă nu trebuia, dar nu mai suportam să o văd plângând. Timpul trecuse, nu se mai putea face mare lucru. Brusc, când am trecut pe lângă ea, m-a prins de mână și m-a obligat să mă aplec. Mi-a șoptit repede. ucizi și altceva sau doar politicieni și militari? Pe oricine, am zis. That's it. And blah, 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 blah. Da.
I will read a longer fragment, actually. Camelia fell silent, and I realized that she was waiting for me to say something. I told her I was really listening. Tell me more, I said, but Camelia didn't say another word, and when I looked at her, I saw that she was weeping. Thick tears coursed dizzily down her cheeks while she crumpled a bit of Kleenex in her fist. I said I had to go. You always have to go. You always say that. She was right, and sometimes I really did have to leave. Other times, no. Right then, I really didn't have to, but I couldn't stand to see her crying anymore. Time had passed. There wasn't much to do anymore. Suddenly, as I passed close to her, she took me by the hand and made me bend over. Do you kill anything other than politicians and soldiers? She whispered quickly. Anybody, I said. Everybody has a price. Anybody? She asked, still not looking at me. Anyone, absolutely. Good, she replied. I'll think about this. I'll make you a proposal. Then she let go of my hand and I took off. After more than half a year, she made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Then she doubled the sum and wanted us to meet. We were seeing each other for the last time. More precisely, she was seeing me for the last time. I would have to see her again without her knowing. She looked more put together this time and had even refrained from drinking. This is for Carlos, she told me, and held out an envelope that looked like all the others she'd sent. I've put in a photo too, as he asked me. She fell silent for a moment, then she said, do you remember the Somnora, Gabriel, the best place to die? Of course I remembered it. I'd called it the desert of assassins and suicides. I'm thinking of going there to Mexico for several days. I've been looking it up. There's a village, Belano, and near the village, there's a bus station, and then there's an abandoned gas station. Do you think we could meet there at the gas station? I'm leaving next week and I'll stay at least 5 days. I'll wait for you every morning and every evening from 8 till 10. This was wonderful. We waited for you since 1 o'clock and you have arrived. Și noi v-am așteptat de la ora 1 și în sfârșit ați ajuns împreună cu noi. Vă mulțumim foarte mult. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm going to continue now with the last but not the least guest for today, who is with us, I think, from Telciu, Bistrița. Am I right, Gelu? Bună seara, Gelu Vlașin.
Bună seara și bine v-am găsit.
Ne vei citi din Telciu, Bistrița?
Sigur.
So Gelu Vlașin has joined us from Telciu, Bistrița. I'm going to briefly introduce him to you, and we are going to read some poetry that he wrote in Romanian and English as well. Gelu Vlașin is a poet and essayist. He made his literary debut in 1999 with the poetry collection Psychiatry Treaty and lived in Spain until recently. He is the president of the Association for Romanian Writers and Artists in Spain and the tireless organizer of the writing summer camp Întâlnirile de la Telciu, the Telciu Encounters, and also of the Diverbium International Poetry Festival. His poetry was translated and published internationally in more than 10 countries, and in 2012 he was awarded the Cultural Merit Order in the rank of Knight. It's great to have you with us. And I will invite you, Janu, now to read one poem in Romanian. I will read the English translation and we'll go on with the next ones.
Ok. Depresie 12. La tineretului, noaptea târziu, sunt flori strecurate lângă uși prea bine păzite, când liftul stratifică între etaje nuga și cocos. Vitrina-i cam strâmtă pentru manechinul cu pâine prăjită și pianul cu 5.000 de lei. Stau prin vecini, alungat de prea multă fobie, așteptând să se întâmple un vis cu vacanță în Paris.
Depression 12. It's late at night in the neighborhood. Flowers are settled near. Well-guarded doors when the elevator stacks up nougat and coconut between floors. The shop window is too narrow for the mannequin holding toast, and the piano costing 5,000 lei. I live nearby, chased away by too big a phobia, waiting for a Paris dream to come true.
Depresie 10. Nu mai ești simplista care îmi tulbură ochiul îngust și decorul absent când lumea dansează tango printre mese cu vin alb și roșu, în ritmul radeului obosit. Nu mai ești banala poveste a geniului ratat când rânjetul cretin inundă încăperea și nici omul orchestră la festivalul proștilor deghizați și nici femeia fatală confundată cu o târfă de cartier mărginaș sau ceea ce gândul meu primitiv caută disperat printre mizeriile cotidiene. Nu ești zâmbetul ascuns între suferințe conjugale prea ușor acceptate și o știu prea bine de ce, sufletul prea plin pentru îndeleniciri fără sens și nu pot să te simt aproape când tu nu ești.
Depression 10. You're not the innocent girl clouding my narrow eye anymore, or the absent background of everyone dancing tango among the tables with white and red wine to tired radio rhythms. You're not the trivial story of the washed out genius anymore, when the moronic smirk floods the room, or the one-man band at a festival of disguised fools, or the femme fatale mistaken for a slum whore, or whatever my primitive mind is looking for through the daily trash. You're not the smile hidden in the too easily accepted marital suffering, and I know very well why the soul is overburdened by senseless acts, and I cannot feel you close when you are no more.
Depresie 8. Postere lucioase peste ochi prăfuiți când pisica vorbește cu mine din baie și fumezi disperată trabuc și suspini cum că frica-i prea mare să prindă contur într-un gând, când afară-i cumplit de real. Eu mai ronță-i o vorbă ce stă printre dinți și ascult dedicații, tembele. Sunt destul de ratat ca să scriu un poem, cum mă dor sânii tăi dezgoliți într-o seară.
Depression 8. Shiny posters cover dusty eyes when the cat talks to me from the bathroom and you're smoking desperately on the cigar, and you sigh as if the fear's too big to take shape in your mind, when outside it's dreadfully real, my teeth are crunching a few words, and I'm listening to dumb radio dedications. I'm enough of a loser to write a poem about how your uncovered breasts hurt one night.
Depresie 6. În camera portocalelor uriașe, doar aerul cu tine respiră în somn. Reșoul fochistului fredonează Say what you want, Texas, și pături albastre îți ascund vârsta. Vieți monahale, târziu, degetele privesc neputincioase spectacolul umbrelor la numărul 12, când pictezi depresii pe umărul meu.
Depression 6. In the room of huge oranges, there is only the air and you breathing. In your sleep, the fireman's heater is humming. Say what you want, Texas. And the blue blankets hide your age. Monastic lives. It's late. The fingers stare helplessly at the shadow play in number 12 when you paint depression on my shoulder.
Depresie 4. 4 stele la Vila Viorel din Poiană. Pârtia scârție sub pașii tăi cruzi de pantofi închiriați. Gesturi viclene când măslinele erau prea mari pentru tine și jacuzzi și mansarda cu lupi. Ai adormit pe scara din marmură noaptea aceea și te-au violat fulgii unul câte unul și ungurii de la masa vecină cu ceardașul lor. Ai visat telescaune și telecabine și telenovele și bărbați misterioși plini de gesturi ok, sărutându-ți penele verzi, papagalule.
And this is our final poem from Gelu Vlașin, entitled Depression 4. 4 stars over the viral villa in Poiana Brașov. The slope is squeaking under your innocent steps in rented shoes. Cunning gestures when the olives and the jacuzzi and the attic with wolves were too big for you. That night you fell asleep on the marble stairs and you were raped by snowflake after snowflake and the Hungarians from the next table with their czardash. You dreamt of a chairlift and cable car, soap operas and mystery men acting so cool, kissing your green feathers, your parrot.
Thank you.
Foarte mult, Gelu Vlașin. Thank you so much, Gelu, for being with us tonight, and to Mugur Grosu, Mikhail Vakulovsky, Malaiku Hondrar, and to all of our wonderful authors who joined us today. Thank you so much to all of you. It's been brilliant and a true marathon. Rosie, I think you're with us,
yes.
back with us, so over to you.
And Gabriella, thank you as well for your marathon readings. I mean, absolutely incredible. You know, you've held all this together, and I've so enjoyed seeing into all your Romanian colleagues' houses and and front rooms and so on. And I love the view outside the window of Bucharest on the University Square, because I know it so well. I know it so well. It makes me really want to go back there too. Really, really does. But we are, in a way, we're coming full circle. So we'll say goodbye. Thank you so much to all of you. And I'm going to bring in a couple more dear friends and colleagues, because we have another sort of special section of readings as well too, and some thank yous that we want to make to all our colleagues as well. Gabriela, don't go away, because we want to introduce you in another context as well. And I want to also, first of all, welcome Tudor Cretu in Timișoara. And Tudor has to unmute. I don't know how many times I've helped him tell him that.
I am no longer mute.
You've never been mute in my life. It is thanks to Tudor Cretu, really, that we are all here. Because I'm going to tell you a very, very short story, and it's connected with this magazine. It's called the Romanian Riveter. And a couple of years ago, I had a dream, which Gabriela and Tudor knew about, which was to create a magazine of Romanian literature in English. And it had never been done before. And I went around with my begging bowl, and nobody put any money into it. And everybody was trying to, because they all knew it was such a great idea. And Gabriela heard, and I went and met all the wonderful colleagues. And then I turned up in 2018 at this amazing festival in Timișoara, this beautiful, beautiful city. And I met this man, and you see him here, fully bearded, wearing the Litvest t-shirt. And I attended and participated in the International Litvest Festival in Timișoara in 2018. And Tudor basically said to me, let's make it happen. So it's thanks to Tudor Cretu that this magazine came into being. Tudor Cretu, who you can all see here, in I can't remember how long it took us to get the magazine together, but this is basically, it's a magazine which was funded by Timișoara, by the county.
By the county.
Absolutely. And Gabriela is our guest editor. We call it very grandly for the rest of Romania. and Tudor was our editor, our guest editor for Timișoara. And
for the west of Romania.
The west. And so what we've done on the basis of that, we had the launch in September in Timișoara and in the Romanian Cultural Institute in London. Thanks to Magda Stroa, who you will all meet again tomorrow, because she's going to be introducing our very, very final event, which is the Romanian Rocks concert on the roof of the Romanian Cultural Institute. Now, once upon a time, we would all have been together in real life to enjoy that. But the miracle of this festival, the miracle is that we've been able to carry it out online with everybody participating in this way. And so we have a few more treats, because, as I say, we're going back in time to it seems like a long time ago, doesn't it, Tudor, that we produced the magazine?
Yes.
It's only a few weeks. It's only a few weeks.
It's only been a couple of weeks. I mean, some weeks, not a couple of weeks. But on the other hand, when we started planning it, it was a different world, so to speak. It was like a different era. Let's hope it will soon be the same.
Indeed, indeed. But what we want to do now is to hear from Tudor in his other role, which is not just the manager of the Untitled Library, and not just the director of the Litvest Festival in Timișoara, but where I've met so many of the poets and so on that we've been talking about as well. But Tudor is himself a wonderful writer, poet, novelist, and so on, and also has a couple of extracts in the magazine. And Tudor, you're going to read for us from which extract have you chosen?
Oh, I'm going to read the fragment, so to speak, from the prose fragment I published. So an excerpt from the fragment, from the novel fragment I published, and the novel should come out next year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So these are, so to speak, the last 2 pages. They are about hand fishing, a rural form of poaching, to put it this way. The barbel's bellies were even whiter. He'd been obsessed with this species ever since he was a little boy. Their old next-door neighbor to the right, the one beyond the stone wall, always caught them like crazy. He would prepare his bait the night before, raking through the manure for worms. He never kept bait in matchboxes or cartons, but, and the minister learned this too, in small jars of various kinds, which he would line up on a windowsill, just as someone might in a room in a hostel. He would always put some soil at the bottom, and at least a little. They were moving upstream through rapids. The banks bellied out. Here, Marco frowned and dashed over to the dry bush growing on the bend. This is where I caught one that weighed a kilo. I don't know when that was. A year ago, perhaps. Come on, Darius, hold my feet. I need to get under the bank all the way to my knees. You pull me out when I give the signal. I'll flap my left foot 3 times, okay? A distant cousin of his had died a little further down the river, the first Saturday of his holiday. Perpelia, his mate, pulled him out of the hollow like a stick. He'd felt the guy's ankles getting thinner. As old hags would say, his heart has burst in him, went pop like a plastic bag. He was 36. Perpelia had dropped him onto his back on a strip of wet sand. He'd been hesitant to kiss him even there, in the wilderness, to do what he'd seen in Baywatch, mouth to mouth. They both had mustaches and ponytails. He had pounded him as hard as he could in the heart area, trying, as he'd later stated to the head of the police station, to resuscitate him. The skin on the corpse had started to dry. Darius, you won't catch anything else here, even if... Go ahead, Marco barked. Stick the net in. Better still, give it to me. The minister threw it over with unbearable precision. The net, it was finely meshed, who grabbed it with one hand and jammed it into the mud. Immediately behind the bush, he started to shake hard, to stomp his feet. Ah, ah. He howled like Tarzan, and after about 10 seconds, pulled out the net. It was crawling with lechish, small bitter fish, which, unlike loach, couldn't even be used as bait. Small change, so to speak. He threw the fish into the air as high as he could. Their fins were colored. The child tried to catch a few of them with his raffia bag. He liked them. They were
Let's hope Tudor comes back again. We might have lost the connection there. Have we lost the connection? Well, all I can say is that you can read it. Are you there, Tudor? Can you?
Yeah, I disappeared. Fantastic. It was a supernatural phenomenon.
It's
not unlike the novel.
No.
Not unlike the ones. It was a problem with the connection. Sorry to
no, it was only 20 seconds, which is the name of the novel.
Yes, to make it, yeah, indeed. Can you see? Can
Give it another
you see
go.
now?
Give it another go, and then yes, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's to make it safer, so to speak. To make it safer, I will
Tudor is
read
not.
do you want me to read the poem, which is obviously shorter?
Right.
Right. Do you want me to read a poem which is shorter?
Yes, that would be great. We've got the connection. Let's make the most of it.
Yeah, let's make, yeah. So I don't know what is happening. I never had such problems. We've been to Zoom both here and at my work too. Just
don't worry. I think what's happened is that the Zoom fairies have
yeah.
They're complaining.
So let's exercise it. The poem is called Exorcism. This entity, blind and swarthy, locomotive, coal steam, something stuck on the inside like a sticker, a wild beast chased away with the shovel. Let me invoke it, spit it between the eyes. It is nothing but a ball of fur and a leper's grin, steam rising from a gory wound. Let me call it, hit it with the poker. We clash in gardens, in open air. Where are you? Come out. Where are you? Come out. A smell of charred cauldron, of a funny gypsy coppersmith, soot and ashes of an old hut. Come out, crawl and go back. To the open manhole I shall poke the effigy, deep in your flesh, the effigy burning on the grill. I shall scorch your fur, your fat rolls. You will run like a mutt hit with an old shoe. Your hiss louder than any brake screech. Come out. This is a kind man's shelter. It is the Lord's house and the town in the postcards. Red candles burning instead of furnaces. You are a whirlpool, a toxin, deluge and tremor. Come out. These are the teachings on the whitest sheets of paper. Come out. Let me spit and wring my shirt, my dry rags out. You do not exist. You do not exist. You do not exist. You're but a painting on the carpet we wipe our feet on. Come out, shrink, wriggle, and spring out through my ears, my nostrils, or better, my head. In that moment, under a ceiling covered in bronze candelabra, shining in broad daylight, I'll stand smiling, painting, and if need be of tremor, let it be now. And if need be of an earthquake, let the shore collapse now. And if need be of a fire, let my barn burn down now. It's the Lord's meadow here, and the Sundays have only mornings. Come out. The clean air will suffocate you. Come out. The women's scarves are all white. Come out. The sound of the keys is the invocation, the little hammer that drives you crazy. This flattens your skull. Come out. Of the smoker's lungs and the darkness of the smoking houses. Come out. You old hag, you shrew, wagging your tail, leave a round hole behind you in the window, like a bullet, like a projectile. This is the house of honeycombs and kindness, of plain garments and clean asses. Come out. You have come out. Yes,
Super.
thank you.
No, thank you.
It solved also the problem of the internet connections.
Obviously, it loved a bit of it. The internet loves a bit of exorcism. You know, there you are.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much, Tudor Cretu, for everything you've done for us, for your poetry, for your wonderful presence, and for helping to make the magazine happen. This is an historical occasion, I think, in so many ways.
For all of us involved.
And then it led to all this. So thank you, Tudor, so much. And also, we have such a talented team. I really, really cannot begin to tell you how much everybody in our team does in their real lives, if you like, beyond producing festivals and so on, to Gabriela Mocan, who you may know as a lecturer in English for specific purposes, I love the title of what she does, for specific purposes and intercultural communications at Babes-Bolyai University, Inclusion Epoca. It's a very long title. She was also 2013 to 2019, she was the head of literature, visual arts and architecture at the Romanian Cultural Institute in London, and which is how I got to know her. But Gabriela is also a poet, and she's going to make her debut tonight here on this wonderful readathon marathon literary extravaganza. So Gabriela, I'm so looking forward to this, and thank you very, very much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you, Rosie, for this very flattering introduction. I can't really say that I'm a poet, but rather than I have always flirted with poetry, to put it a bit differently. I studied literature and languages in university, and I loved to write poetry. I've always felt very close to poetry more than any other form of expression in writing. And I used to write when I was a student in university. We also had a creative writing course led by a British professor, Richard Proctor, and a group of us who were more into this side of writing had a newspaper entitled Godot, that we were printing ourselves and sticking the pages on the walls of the university. So I'm going to share a poem from those years, those university years, the rebel years of my youth, to call it like that. And then I'm also going to share a poem that I wrote very recently, and I will tell you the story of that poem. But first, the first poem that I actually wrote in university, and you will recognize the rebel youth in it. I had been trying to die for a change while you were loitering on my swollen forgetfulness. I'd rather you weren't such a long emergency, and I'd rather I weren't some strengthless shoulders that can't hold anymore. I'm already anticipating your kisses that need no anticipation. We've already wasted too much time disgusting one another. I keep on vomiting your spermatic promises. I'll buy some glue and stick my love on the toilet. We'll both witness a spider's resurrection. And why not witness a spider's resurrection? Is it over? Then what? So this was my first poem, wrote many, many years ago, too many to admit. And the second poem, which I wrote very recently, as I said, was a response to a wonderful project developed by a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who lives in New York and who's a visual artist. And she created this project during the pandemic because of the distance and because of the impossibility of meeting those who are very dear to us during this time. She sent envelopes with her touch on a piece of paper to her closest friends and family. And each person who received this envelope had to respond with a touch in return. And I chose to respond with a poem that I put in her hands, in her palm. So I put words in her hands. And so it's a poem written during the pandemic. And it is entitled To Have and to Behold. Hands, lids of some days that follow us home. Some days we touch unheralded beginnings and hold our breath in ecstasy. Other days we wipe invisible tears and paint the inside walls of sorrow crimson. We build and build, and then we untie. We build again. When distance is all that's relevant here and now, what are they holding What are they letting go? This was it from me. Thank you, Rosie.
Well, Gabriella, all I can say is I hope that when this festival's over, you have more time to write poetry, because you should.
I would love to, but in my case, life takes over most of the times with my profession and the busy life. But I would love to go back to poetry. Yes.
I think you definitely should. And your dog obviously needs you as well. It's probably needed walking for a few weeks. Gabrielle, it's been amazing what you've done the last few weeks, and thank you so much for that too. And you know,
it's been a pleasure to work with you. An amazing co-curator you have been, and probably one of the greatest supporters that Romanian literature in Romania can have in the UK ever. So thank you for all your efforts. And I also want to thank all the members of our fantastic team. Michal Vakulovsky from London Video Stories, who you will actually listen in a few moments. Rosie will introduce him. He filmed all of our events. Anna Blazak, who was our literary coordinator, she was amazing. She took care of the websites and the brochure. Emma House, who did the publicity for the festival. Andreas Kridon, our translation and editorial assistant, and Cristian Lucian, who created the logo for our festival. And of course, our colleague Magda Stroe, acting director of the Romanian Cultural Institute, who came with this idea to us that she wanted to put this festival together. So thank you for the idea, Magda, and for all the support, and to the Romanian Cultural Institute as well.
Absolutely. And you can hear Magda introduce our very, very final event tomorrow evening at 6:30 GMT, 8:30 Romanian time. And it's a special rock concert on the roof of the Romanian Cultural Institute. And I think Magda herself is even presenting it from the roof of the Romanian Cultural Institute. So do tune in tomorrow evening. But we would like, because this is about literature, and as Gabriella said, we have had a very, very special colleague filming every single minute of the last 4 weeks of all our literary output and all our discussions. And he is our video director and producer of London Video Stories. He's a filmmaker. He loves literature. And I've been working with him for about 8 years, and Gabriella has as well. And he's been filming for the Romanian Cultural Institute too. And he is himself a story writer. He's a lovely, lovely writer of stories. Now, Mihai, Andrei, are you there?
So I studied journalism for a while, and then I went into video production, and it just, to some extent, it just came together. I realized that, you know, the stories are so complex that they can't be built with just video or just words. And to some extent, because of probably my love of literature, I just try to scribble constantly and to, you know, put it down on paper. And so finally we intersected a few years ago, 8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, which is...
Is it 8? My
yes,
goodness.
Yeah, that's quite
You were
a lot.
You were a child then, Mihai.
I think I was.
How long, just tell me, how long have you been living in Britain now? Because people may not realize, of course, that you're, you know, because Zoom, you never know where people are. You're in close to London. I'm out in Yorkshire, and how long have you been in Britain?
Actually 8 years and a bit, so from 2012 now. So, and actually I came here right at the right moment, because you know, the London Olympics were on, and I was just inspired by the determination of the Olympians, and I thought maybe, just maybe, I could just put this determination into video, into video production. And that's why I've started London Video Stories, this video production company.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Okay, over to you and your stories.
Right. So my story is called The Memo, and I will be reading just one extract out of it. And I like to read, you know, obviously fiction, but going towards science fiction, and that's my thing. I absolutely adore it. And in this case, we are in the 23rd century, in London, in some sort of a super clean city. And in this city, we have memory detectives who have the remit and the technical ability to access memories of their victims. And this is in order to solve crimes, of course. And in this case, John Lang is one of those detectives, and he's just been assigned a new case because he discovered the murder of a memory tech operator. And anyway, to keep it short, it goes like this. Still blue, he thought, London. Ultra-modern individuals going about their day. He was still in awe of their apparent business, going to and fro, forming a symphony of movement that sometimes didn't make sense for him, especially when the Skyway was crowded. It was always crowded. The former rush hour turned into rush day, the rush day turned into rush week. This mega village, a cluster of villages, a hollow impression of people coming together, was always rushing. Still, a sense of genuine curiosity sped up his pace, joining the symphony of movement. Andante, andante, people not minding their way, inadvertently bumping into him. Allegro, allegro, sometimes he just wanted to yell at them and to make them make some space. Vivace, vivace, cars everywhere like insects hovering rapaciously over something sweet. Presto, presto, the stench of the less fortunate, the unsuccessful, mingling with perfumes of their more successful counterparts. Prestissimo, prestissimo, his head spinning and the loss of direction, cars making use of non-existent magic, appearing and disappearing, an avalanche of words that could have been there but probably aren't, blue changing into green, orange, then burning red. A cacophony of city sounds at interchangeable speeds. A slur of unapologetically confusing world.
Presto, presto, the stench of the less fortunate, the unsuccessful, mingling with perfumes.
I can hear some sort of an echo. He must be hitting a low. Probably the coffee kicked out. Maybe he's preoccupied with the case. Maybe he's tired. That frantic episode doesn't make sense otherwise. Get it together, John, and get it together in your own time, but do it now. Getting it together in this day and age, and especially in this age, wasn't something that came as easy as he wanted. But this time, John gets it together as he approaches the tech's office. Bloody techies always hiding in godforsaken places. It's such a 2020s cliche. A detective in search of a perpetrator in a dark, desolate building. The hallway looks like it's from another century. It smells like that too. Curiously, no bloggers around, no neighbors, except for some rats, and definitely no light. Lang cordons the entrance in one swift movement using a badly designed hologram. LMP, London Metro Police. No entrance. As if someone would actually be tempted to enter in such a dump. John takes a sphere drone out of his jacket and throws it in the air. The sphere begins to hover. Light. 5 out of 10. The drone's multiple LEDs begin to shine, creating enough light to make some sense of the surroundings. The place is as filthy as he's expected. Scanning area. No signal detected. The drone says in a pleasant female voice. Stepping carefully, gun in hand, the detective cracks the door open to reveal something that resembles a tech lab, as expected. The techie's body, lying on the floor, is expected too. Grey eyes, wide open, stare hollowly at him. Well, hollow to you too, jokes Lang reluctantly, taking off his glasses and placing them on the corpse's head. Scanning. Signs of cerebral alterations detected. Memory blocks corrupted. Scanning. Scanning. Scanning incomplete. Fragmentary memory blocks acquired. No wonder you can't remember a thing, you poor bastard. I get the same after some boozy nights, says Lang, taking his glasses back and asking the drone to disinfect them. He checks the area one more time. Let's pack it up, drone. Undetected packing area. Let us exit from the establishment, you uninspired piece of crap. Acknowledge. Scanning complete. Exiting establishment. And this is where I will be exiting too, I'm afraid.
Well,
So,
I would say definitely inspiring, not uninspired crap at all. Mihai, it's amazing to think all this is going on in your head, you know. You've got to keep on writing. And because I can just see your tech side, you know, all your other interests in there as well too, and it's lovely.
Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure, and I'm humbled by the fact that, you know, I've been here and part of such a literally stellar team. So thank you so much. This is where I'll turn my camera off.
And thank you to everyone. And thank you, Gabriella. And see you all tomorrow evening at the concert. Thank you very, very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, bye, bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye, Tudo. Bye.